Welcome back to another episode of Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me, per the usual, is head coach Jake Russell. Coach Russell, the Tigers, they're on the move. They're 5-0. They're 1-0 in Mid-South Conference. They take a 49-34 victory in the first Mid-South Conference game of the season against a pretty good University of the Cumberland's team. They were receiving votes at the time, so another a poll win for the Tigers, and you see that a little bit. The Tigers jump up to the highest ranking so far in school history at this Division I NAIA level at number 10, and setting up for a heck of a season moving forward, a top 10 team and a top 10 matchup probably here in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, was actually asking some of the coaches and players and some of the guys I played with a couple weeks ago about how high our 2015 team got in the rankings, and was curious and was hoping that our team would be able to surpass that, and obviously we have, and found out that at the end of that regular season in 15, we actually got up to 11th, and it's really cool kind of to see those two things come to fruition in that 10-year span. But you know, our guys deserve it. They've worked really hard. This has been a 3-year process, and we've talked about a lot on this show how last year's team really set us up for a lot of things we're able to accomplish, and probably the things we will be able to accomplish through this season. University of Cumberland's a really talented team, really good football team. I think they may find their way back into the rankings by the end of the year. They're going to surprise some people, and they shouldn't, because when you see them on film, you see they're really big, they're really talented. They obviously have the ability to move the ball on offense. I thought we did a really good job of taking away their running game and trying to force them to beat us with the pass, and they did. They threw the ball for a ton of yards. Fought back really early to some explosive plays on our side, which was a testament to their coaching. And overall, probably again, we think we've said it in a couple games this show, it was a great win. I don't think it was a great performance overall, but there was a lot of great things that we can build and teach off of.
So we'll start with the hot start, obviously, the third longest kickoff return for a touchdown in school history, 94 yards, Ashton Walker. You can't ask for a much better start to a game than a kickoff return.
Yeah, it just brings a lot of energy instantly into the stadium, into our team. Obviously, kind of gives you a little bit of house money to play with there, to where you can withstand their punch back, which they obviously did. And it was a great reality check for our guys of what we're going to face in our conference, right? These teams are going to find a way to fight back into the games the same way we've done in the past, right? And there's not going to be any easy victories where you just go score a couple times and they're going to lay down and let you win the game. But we've worked really hard for 3 years now. It was one of our main goals as our staff in the offseason and heading into the season was creating momentum and game-changing plays on special teams. And our staff has done a phenomenal job, even with Coach Beatty, who is our special teams coordinator, leaving. Guys have taken a lot of responsibility and pride in their special teams performing really well. And so Coach Brown runs the kickoff return. He's done a phenomenal job with that over the last couple of years. We've been so close to popping a big return and for a touchdown, just a little thing here and there, a penalty, and we finally get one. Obviously Ashton's very electric with the ball in his hands, and the blocking was great, and so that was huge. And like you said, it just really gives a great energy and start to the game, and something that can make a big difference later in the game when the game is close.
And I thought one of the crazier things, too, you look at the possession time and the difference in that. I think they outpaced us by close to 8 or 9 minutes by the end of the game in possession time. But obviously, you don't need it too much. You don't need the ball in your hands for very long if you have Trey Bass popping off 50-yard runs for touchdowns every time. He had a tremendous day, 5 touchdowns, ties a record, ties another record for most points in a game. I think he's, at this point, has more 50-plus touchdown runs than he does in terms of maybe 2-yard touchdown runs on the goal line.
Yeah, well, Trey's a great football player. It's been so awesome for me to see firsthand the work that he puts in, day out, not just in the fall, not even just in spring ball, but through the summers, waking up at 6 a.m. or we pushed it to 8 a.m., which was a blessing this summer, and do that, go work during the day, and then you'll see him back on the field at night. I literally remember talking to him this summer about make sure you're taking a day off every once in a while, and he's just had his best off season, which has resulted in him having his best season. And he's been electric, he's been a difference maker, and he will continue to be that. Trey's just such a great leader. He's been on our leadership council since day one, and he deserves all the stats and praise and recognition he'll get, and he's a guy that doesn't care about that if we're not winning the game. And then you mentioned it's so rare that you see one team run over 40 plays more than the other team and we still be able to win the game and have a great game offensively. One of the reasons is because of Trey and the other guys. We scored some long touchdowns. We had some short drives that resulted in points. And then they obviously were able to have some drives. We did some things, committing penalties, roughing the punter, a kind of a unique, kind of just silly penalty that happened on the sideline towards the end of the game that extended their drives. And so, we can't continue to do that, allow one team to run 90 plays and us run 50. We've kind of got to close that gap while we continue to be explosive, but we also got to get them off the field and shorten their drives as well.
And you talk about those accolades. You swept the Mid-South Conference awards for this week, one of those guys being the defense, and that's C.J. Cutliff. He bounced back in a tremendous way after, giving up that first touchdown. A lot of guys get down on themselves after that, especially at the time frame of which it happened. It felt like Tigers had a lot of momentum, and maybe that killed a little bit of it, but you all were able to pick it right back up, and he turns around and has a heck of a game, ends up with 2 interceptions, was one of the team leaders in tackles. Yeah. He really turned it around.
Yeah, CJ's been, making big plays for 4 years in our program. He's a ball hawk. He's got great ball skills. He was a receiver at one point. I mean, this is an unbelievably talented guy. He's a very smart football player. He gave up some big plays early in the game, and I think he used those things for later in the game to make those game-winning plays. What I'm most proud of with CJ is that he's now become a full, cornerback where he's a factor in the run game. He's a factor in the screen game where he's being physical, 7 tackles, 2 tackles for losses. That's something 3 or 4 years ago with CJ we were begging him to do and kind of saying like, well, he's going to be great in coverage. He's going to get you turnovers. He's going to be electric when he gets the ball in his hands. I think he led the nation in interception return yards 3 or 4 years ago. So he's always going to have that ability. And now you factor in that he's going to be, very physical and a difference maker in the other aspect of the game. That's really kind of the full circle thing you want to see from a guy that stays in your program for 5 years. So very proud of him. The defense overall really should have pitched a shutout in the second half. Just again, kind of a penalty that extended a drive and allowed them to score. But other than that, I thought the adjustment and the mindset that the defense took into the second half was a huge shift. And I think we'll look back on that later in this season and say that was when it clicked, and that's when we got, our defense playing to one of the best in the nation.
And you have a bye week coming up this week, and then you head into a pretty important game with Lindsey Wilson, a lot of Mid-South Conference ramifications. This team had a bye week coming into the University of the Cumberlands, and it felt like, they really handled it well. They came out with a lot of energy. A lot of teams you may see come out a little sleepy. That was not the case with this Tiger team. They seemed like they're raring to go constantly and handled the bye week super well.
Yeah, and 2 really different bye weeks where one, you were coming off a huge victory against Thomas and kind of knowing, okay, now we're gearing up for conference play, right? There were things specific to that week that we knew we had to work on. And now you're coming off a conference game where there's a lot of things that need to be improved on in this bye week. And I do think there's a little different edge. And there was kind of that reality of, you get up 14-0. And I think some of our guys just thought, here we go again. This is going to be one of those blowout victories. That's not going to happen in our conference. The teams are too talented. They're too well coached, all those things. And I think that reality set in for our guys. I think they're going to attack this week. They're all looking forward to next week. We're very excited to see Cumberland's versus Lindsey Wilson film this week, right? Those 2 teams are both going to be extremely talented. We obviously have the fresh view of Cumberland's where we just got to see them in person and play against them and what our game plan and everything was against them and how they go and play against Lindsey. And I think it could be a very competitive game and a really good one for us to learn and grow off of as well.
Well, Coach, we'll step away and take a break, give you a break as well. Stay tuned to Under Center with Jake Russell. Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield. With me is the Khalil Baker, former Fighting Tiger, as well as color commentator extraordinaire.
You're fine.
Khalil, super excited to have you in the studio as always.
Yeah.
Love going on road trips with you. Love being in the booth with you, down on the field with you. It makes things super exciting. Your knowledge of football is super high. Your IQ is up there. So
Thanks, man.
I appreciate
It's really
being
sweet of
able
you.
to
Yeah.
have you. You help liven things up, make it sound way better than maybe usual.
You say make it sound way better. There was a clip that got posted on Instagram of me when DQ made that big play this past weekend, and
Yeah.
it was an embarrassing sound that came out of my mouth. So you say make it sound better. I don't know about this past weekend, but thank you for all the compliments, and of course, thank you for having me too.
Well, I can't blame you for that hit, honestly. I was trying everything in my power to not make the sound. You could hear it in my voice as I said, I think leveled, I think was the term I used, and he was certainly leveled. We'll talk about that, actually. Let's talk about how physical these corners are. You're a defensive guy. This defense will fly around. They're ball hawks. These corners are not afraid to get up into the business end of football and make some big hits. There's not many defenses out there that do it maybe as physical, and sometimes you call it psycho when we're down there on the field, as psycho maybe as we do it.
Yeah, this team is very psycho. It starts with the coaching staff. They're psychos, the way they prepare, the way they push their players, the coaching staff preparing, doing things throughout the summer, throughout the spring, as making sure they're meeting with their team, Zoom meetings, if they have them in person, doing meetings in that welcome center, in the theater room too. So they're psycho in the way they prepare. But when it gets to the fall camp experience, they're also pushing their guys out there every single day as far as bringing the intensity, bringing the energy, and just bringing that physicality that they need as a top defense, especially too. So Coach Ford, Coach Owens, Coach Atwood, Coach Gribbins, all those guys do such a great job as far as instilling that mentality, and then the players respond at the end of the day. So they respond well. They go out there every single game, and they are fighting for their lives out there, from the starting group to the twos to the threes and fours. We got to see some of them go out there and play. So it's been fun to see them go out there and be who they are and live in that truth, especially so twos. Of course, they've had some issues when it comes to maybe communication stuff on the mental side of the game, on the back end especially. But man, those safeties, Tank Johnson, DQ Brown come up and make a lot of big plays, especially in the run game and punishing guys when it comes to maybe trying to make a play through the air. And then also those corners will come up and make a big tackle. We saw that in DQ and CJ Cutliff earlier in the season. We saw CJ Cutliff make a really big play last week, led the team in tackles, if I'm not mistaken, last game as well too. But those linebackers, those defensive linemen, saw Alan Parrish make a lot of big plays, getting penetration, really establishing that tone in the run game. And then those linebackers are showing up every play, whether it's Ellis Reed, whether you got Jacoby Miguel, Ballard, like those guys are coming up every game and showing up. So I pride myself on being a physical psycho when it comes to maybe different aspects of my life now, but trying to prepare for games like this. And it would have been amazing to be a part of a defense like this in the past couple of years and what we've seen from this Tiger defense. So yeah, man, they're awesome in what they do, and always kudos to them, salute to them.
And their responses have been well, too. We've seen them, they kind of get punched in the mouth at times on maybe miscommunications, whatever the deal is. I think at one point in that game against UC, it was 6 of 12 on third down conversion. That's not a rate you want to see if you're the defense. 50% is way too high. And then they go into the halftime locker room. They obviously had a very frustrated coaching staff. You could hear them on the field. You could hear them in the booth next to us. And they come out, and I think at one point it might have been 2 of 10 in that second half on the third down conversion rate. So they're able to make these adjustments along the way as well.
Yeah, so you're making adjustments all throughout the game. That's a big part of it too, but we talked about it a lot in the booth. Like when you're able to sit down with your defensive coordinator, who's in the booth for most of the game too, when you're able to sit down with him and talk about what you're seeing and talk about what he's seeing as well too, and he's going to chew out a little bit because you made some big mistakes in the first half. I think that helps the defense out a lot to fix those miscommunications, and whether you're trying to maybe simplify things on the back end or make sure you're just ironing out a few small details I heard Coach talk about as well, that makes a big difference when it comes to maybe fixing that second half miscues. So that's why we saw a lot of those third down conversions really dwindle for UC, and the guys really respond. Even CJ Cutliff, gave up that first touchdown, a big play. Looked like he thought he maybe had help, but it looks like he just kind of got beat on that, but even responded so well after that. Had 2 big pass breakups, led the team in tackles, and had 2 big interceptions, including the game-sealing interception as well. So those guys are, they're not used to, they're always used to responding and, to adversity. We saw that from St. Francis, and we've seen it in almost every game so far too. Responded to some type of adversity, even with Weber and the weather. Man, they came right back out there and was ready to play. So this team is, battle tested, and they got another big battle coming up next week as well too. So.
And this offense, let's give them some of their flowers as well. Jet's been playing really well down the stretch. He had a little bit of maybe a greasy hand there for a little bit, but he was able to rally. You didn't lose too many of them. Obviously, you don't want the ball on the ground. That's probably the last case scenario that you want, but you're able to come away with it. You're able to come away with the victory. He still looked pretty sharp for the most part. Obviously, you have Trey Bass, 5 touchdown day. You can't say too much about that. And he has 316 all-purpose yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns. And I told Coach before, I said, I think he probably has more 50-plus yard touchdown runs or catches than he does maybe goal line rushing touchdowns this season, which is a crazy stat.
Yeah. I mean, not every game is going to be perfect. And, I was talking to Coach Lane one week, and I was like, man, your offensive line looked really good. And he texted back and said, they did, but they also left a lot of meat on the bone. So that happens sometimes. But, man, I'm still so impressed with that offensive line, still so impressed with what Trey Bass is being able to do, especially, it's really hard to be consistent throughout that game, but, man, we really saw them really come up big, and he made a lot of big explosive plays. I was like, man, this is not sustainable. Boy, was I wrong. That was incredible to watch. And Jet Engel also being in the flow of it and making sure the offenses run smoothly. Of course, those turnovers need to be fixed, and that's a big part of the game, especially when you're going to go up against top 10 teams and really good teams in this conference. So you got to fix those. Those mistakes, of course, too, but, man, this offense has been rolling, and I've been really impressed with this offensive line. Jack Busey's been really huge in the run game. Love to see him get more involved in the pass game, too. They came out in 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, used Brock Schultz in there. That was on the first play of the game, scored on a zone toss, a crack toss. So that was even new, especially, too. So if they can unlock more parts of their offense and themselves, man, the sky's the limit for this offense.
Quick final thought on maybe this upcoming matchup of what's sure to possibly be a top 10 matchup.
I'm excited. At the end of the day, I'm excited for what this team can be, and we're going up against a really good team in Lindsey Wilson. Man, this is the biggest game of the season. It usually is any season that we're going into, but for sure right now this is the biggest game of the season for what so much is at stake for both teams. Undefeated seasons, top 10 matchups. You're trying to stay undefeated at conference. We're trying to get back into the playoffs. Haven't gotten there in years. So this is such a huge game, but it's gonna be a battle for sure. That's what we've seen pretty much every week for this team, and it's not gonna be any different against Lindsey Wilson. So they're gonna have to fix a lot of those mistakes on both sides of the ball. Taking care of the football is gonna be huge against this team because you can't give them multiple opportunities. You can't give them extra possessions. And when it comes to the defensive side, we have to fix those mistakes on the back end. We have to communicate a lot better. Coach Ford's always talked about, man, they do such a great job during the week, but when it comes to game time, they have to, rise to the occasion and they have to be there for each other. So communication is the biggest part of that, and they have to really focus on honing that in throughout this bye week and then also when it comes to game week.
KB, thanks for coming on.
Of course, thank you.
When we come back, we'll sit down with Coach Jake Russell and talk about the bye week as well as the upcoming matchup with Lindsey Wilson here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Hey, honey. We thought we'd try something new.
Family art hour. What do you think?
You got jokes. You're funny.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Learn more at adoptuskids.org.
When I was 10, my mom got deported. We had a difficult time, and I feel that's why I didn't get to finish school. My husband is really supportive in a way that he pushed me to go back to school.
She wants to have a career so her kids can look up to her.
They both keep me motivated to go to school, and they see that if I do it, like, they can do it too, you know? I feel that everything's possible.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield. With me for the final segment is head coach Jake Russell. Coach, Tigers have a bye week, so you come off of your first Mid-South Conference game. You take a bye week before heading into the rest of your schedule. What is this bye week going to look like for the Tigers? Obviously, getting some guys back and healthy and ready to go for Lindsay. But what's it look like in terms of your preparation?
Well, that's goal number one, is to get everybody as healthy as possible to make this, second half of the year as special as possible. We're a better team when everybody's available. It's been really awesome to see some of the guys that have gotten an opportunity because of injuries step in and see what they can do, and we're really excited about that. Obviously, there's some big pieces that we've been missing over the last couple of weeks, whether it's been long-term or really just, short-term unexpected stuff heading into games, and that's going to be a huge goal. Two is we're treating this as almost like a spring skill development, which we do a few times before spring practice or the early days of fall camp, where it's like take this back to the very basic fundamentals of each side of the ball, each special teams, each position even, where it's just alignment, assignment, and effort, right? At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to change a player at this point. That's what an offseason is for. But what we can is we can sharpen all the small things that when you go back and watch film, that's why the good plays happen, that's why the incorrect plays are made, is because of small things, right? And when you go and face other teams that are equally as talented, equally as, on the coaching staffs prepared and do a great job with those things, those are the things that are the difference in close games, which, in our conference, you're going to be in close games and play really good teams. And, our aspirations of making the playoffs, you're going to be in, close games and all those types of situations against teams that obviously, again, are talented and have great coaching staffs, or they wouldn't be in the playoffs. They wouldn't be in our conference, wouldn't be in a position to possibly be undefeated like, the game against Lindsay in a couple weeks. And that's what we're excited about. And that's really fun as a coach, because that's kind of like the stuff that made you fall in love with it. For myself, coaching quarterbacks, it's the basic fundamentals of quarterback that you really, love to see. And you love to see a guy's growth, from maybe this past week against Cumberland's. You work really hard for 2 weeks on, a couple small details, and then he goes and does it right in a big moment against Lindsay. Like, that's the most rewarding thing. And each coach on our staff will do that within their position group and their units. It's
got to be kind of nice and maybe a refreshing break for the mind to maybe take a week and not prepare for a team and maybe just focus on you and kind of take that step away from the preparation side of somebody else.
Yeah, and each staff treats it differently. And even on our staff, there's position groups or units that will go ahead and start doing some basic scout team work and things like that. But we really, a lot of teams will spend 2 full weeks, scouting an opponent and doing scout team and showing those looks. But like I said, we don't. We try to go back and say, here's what it takes to be good at football, and then specific to your position, right? And again, coaching quarterbacks, right? Can you take the right drop? Can you put your eyes in the right place? And then can you make the throw with the right technique? And all those things are super easy and sound very basic. They all know it by this point. They can all do it on air, but you just rep it and rep it and rep it until you can't get it wrong. And that's where we're trying to get to, because again, all the mistakes, there's going to be a certain amount of plays during a game where one guy's just better on that play than the other guy, and in our conference that happens. We also make a lot of those plays on our side, but it's who can be the most efficient, who can execute the best. And that's very cliche as a coach, but it's true. That's why all the coaches say it. And again, we're excited to see how much our team can improve and buy into those things over the next couple weeks.
And you're looking at what's probably going to be that, I would assume, since we're at the highest rank we've ever been, this will be the highest ranked matchup between these two teams in the Battle of Highway 55. Barring a loss to the University of the Cumberland, you're looking at a number 7, maybe a little higher for Lindsay Wilson, and for us, maybe depending on some losses ahead of us, still being at number 10. So you got a 7 versus 10, maybe higher, maybe a little lower matchup against Lindsay Wilson, a team that just a year ago it was a fumble on the goal line, right there at the half-yard line that kind of breaks things up, breaks the hearts of the Tigers, and gives that trophy back over to them. But a lot of momentum coming this way from the Tigers, being the highest they've ever felt, as well as, just being at home. And it makes it nice to be at home in our atmosphere.
And I had to kind of wipe that from my memory, and that stung a little bit when you mentioned that.
Sorry.
No, it was a great game last year. I think they've beat us 10 or 11 straight years, right? They've kind of owned the rivalry. I even mentioned to our guys, like, for this to really be a great rivalry and two of the best NAIA college football programs in the nation to be right here in the same area, just 20, 25 minutes apart is really cool. It's really awesome. If they can pull off the win this week, which they'll obviously prepare to do that, it's a really cool thing, right? It's very rare. It won't happen often, even as good as the two programs hopefully will remain. Coach Kleckler is obviously, kind of now getting his vision and his culture and everything. And that's really tough to have a coaching change, no matter if you're on the staff or not. And you can now see that he's built that thing into what he wants, and they're really, really good. And they're very experienced on defense. They're very talented on offense. They've got some weapons now on the offensive side that are playing really well. And one thing I told our staff, and the message will be to the players, and they already know this, is we nowhere on our player manual and our team goals or anything it says beat Lindsey Wilson, right? Now, this is an awesome environment, opportunity, all those things, but you could put any team on our conference name in there and it would be the same way. The cool part about it is we get a cross pass with these guys in a lot of places. I'm down at Lindsey Wilson last spring playing intramural basketball. Somehow, some way I found myself in that situation. And a lot of our students came and all their students were there. And it was a really cool environment. And we'll see their guys and students and teachers in Campbellsville eating or going out and doing things. And our guys will be in Columbia doing things just naturally, right? We'll see their coaches out and about every once in a while. And that's kind of what makes it very unique and very cool. And that is what makes a rivalry special. And we love it. We love when they're really good. I think they would probably prefer when we're really good, so that the game does have a lot of awesome opportunity, just even for our region. Like you said, obviously getting to host the home game, possibly a top 10 matchup. That's just, again, something very rare that maybe has probably never happened here. So should be a really, really fun day. We're praying for good weather, so I hope that good weather continues as well.
Well, Coach, we'll let you get your start on the bye week. We appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on again.
Tigers are on a bye week, but make plans for October 18th. They take on the Lindsey Wilson Blue Raiders, so be sure to either join us on the Campbellsville Tigers YouTube page on 88.7 The Tiger or on the TuneIn app, or just be at Finley Stadium. That's going to be the best place for you to be honest. It'll be the most fun and the most electric. It's always a great time here in Tiger Town. And as always, be sure to tune in next week on Under Center with Jake Russell.